Hello race fans, I'm Chris Terrell. I'm here for dailyfantasysportsrankings.com to bring my weekly daily fantasy NASCAR post-qualifying picks video. Before getting into that, if you're not a DFSR member yet, make sure to sign up. It's going to give you access to our member chat room. I'm in there discussing NASCAR pre-lock, usually in there Saturday night as well. And I cover NHL, do sheets for NBA, cover MLB and NFL as well as PGA for DFSR. So I'm in there pretty much 24/7, 365. When you go to the sign up page, you're going to get a 7-day free trial right now, and then you have two options after that free trial is out, either $14.95 a month, which is going to give you our projections, and then to get our optimizer for the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL, it's going to be $29.95 a month. One subscription covers all the sports and the member chat as well. Get over, check it out today. With that, let's get into this week's picks. This week, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series heads to Kansas Speedway for the Digital Ally 400. And this is a night race, and it is also the fourth race of the season on an intermediate mile-and-a-half track. We've got the new rules package this year, and this is actually the third race. Atlanta had a little bit different. They didn't have the air ducts, but Texas and Las Vegas are two races that use this exact package, both also intermediate tracks. So we're going to be looking a little bit at that, as well as track history. This race could play out a little bit different. I'm going to get into that here shortly. So this is 15 degrees of banking in these corners. It's a mile-and-a-half D-shaped oval. Let's go look at the Texas and Vegas information I added to the sheet this week. So we've got in green here, this is Texas finish position, Vegas finish position, and we've got average finish of those two races. Then we've got Texas DK points, Vegas DK points, same with FanDuel, and then the averages for both of those as well. As you can see here, these drivers that are highlighted in green, these are the drivers that finished top 10 in both of those races this year. This track is a little bit different. It isn't as steep banked as Vegas and Texas with the 15 degrees of banking, so it may play a little bit different. But this definitely is some information that is good to look at just because of the new rules package, the more lower down force, cars closer together, that sort of thing. It's probably going to race a little bit different. The reason I say that as well, if we go back and we start looking at the last 6 races at Kansas, scroll down to the bottom here, as you can see, there has been just one driver going across looking at each of the last 6 races that I put on the cheat sheet here. There's only been one driver to lead 100 or more laps in each of the last 6 races, and there has been two or three drivers to lead 50 plus laps in those races. Now, I don't think we're going to see 100 a dominator that leads 100 or more laps. Just looking at the Texas and the Vegas information, looking at those races, while there was in Texas there was 6 drivers to lead 20 plus laps, there in Vegas there was 4 drivers to lead 20 plus laps, but there were no drivers to lead 100 plus laps in either of those races. But there were 2 drivers in each of those races that led 50 plus laps. In Las Vegas, there were 2 drivers that led 80 plus. We had the winner, Joey Logano, he led 86, and then we also had Kevin Harvick, he led 88 laps there as well. We start looking at the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500 there from Texas, which is the most recent race. That's where we've seen 7 drivers lead 15 plus laps. Like I said, 20 plus laps, we had 6 drivers there. So I don't think we're going to get that full dominant. I think we're going to see more drivers leading around that 20 to 50 plus laps, and maybe 1 or 2 drivers that get in that 50 to 100 range. I don't think with 267 laps that we're going to see a driver lead 100 plus laps with the way the stages are set up. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here this week. The correlation between start and finish position not nearly as strong as last week, but still fairly strong. It's something I'm going to be looking at, especially on FanDuel, where the place differential, the dominator points just aren't as important as finishing position over on FanDuel and actually finishing laps. So the speeds overall are a little bit slower when you start looking, breaking down qualifying times. The speed in the corners is a little more like going through the corners, but the overall speed was down a little bit just this week at this track. With that, let's just jump in. Let's have a look at some of the core plays for this week. Like I said, one more note here is that this is an inspection rate. This is inspection on Saturday, so it's an impound race, and just that means 2:30 this afternoon Eastern time is when inspection is going to start. If a driver fails that inspection, they will go to the back and start behind everyone that passes inspection. They will get a new start position when it comes to fantasy, just because this is an impound race, where the cars were impounded after qualifying yesterday. So if they do fail that inspection, they lose their qualifying time, which puts them to the back. So if they go from, say, they qualified 14th, they fail inspection, they go back to there's 40 cars, so if they go back to 40th, they're going to be starting 40th. They will gain points from that 40th position for fantasy this week, so keep that in mind. It's not like a regular weekend where Friday's practice and then qualifying and then 2 more practices on Saturday. If a car goes to the back in that instance on Saturday in one of those practices, whether it be tire, engine, mechanical, hitting the wall, going to a backup car, then they go to the back, but they keep that position. This week's a little bit different because it's an impound race. Anyone that fails and goes to the back gets a brand new starting position for fantasy. Everyone else moves up that one spot. So this video is happening before that inspection starts. So stay tuned with me on Twitter, in the Roto Pros chat, in the DFSR chat, and I will keep you up to date on who's failing, who's passing. We should know the final starting lineup by about 4:30 Eastern. With that, let's take a look at some core plays this week. So number 1 in my model, I'm going to be building around him the most this week, is going to be Kevin Harvick. He's been very good here. We'll go look at his track history. Finished 12th in the fall race here in the playoffs. He led 76 laps, but he won the spring race here last year. And as you can see, he's got top 10s in 5 straight, including 2 wins there. So he's been very good here. So he's got track history. We go look at the Texas and Vegas. He's one of those drivers that finished top 10 in both, 8th and 4th in those races, averaging 71 DK points, 72.5 FanDuel points, which is second to only Kurt Busch on those 2 tracks so far this year. And then we look at his practice times. He was 9th in opening practice, and 4th in practice 2. That's 1 lap averages. 10 lap averages, he was the fastest car in the field. Starting from the pole, I think he can get out front and be that very first dominator, probably get 50 plus right off the bat until the end of the first stage. So he's definitely going to be, and being that he is 4th in price on both sites, he's going to be my core play this week. Kyle Busch stands out as number 2 in my model this week. He is starting 13th, so he does get some place differential value. He's had a top 10 in every single race this year. He's been pretty good at Kansas as well, as you can see. Go back and look. He was 2nd here, but he's got top 10s in 9 straight races here, including a win back in 2016 and a bunch of top 5s in there as well. So hard to fade him. He is very expensive this week, so you're going to have to go definitely a more stars and scrubs type lineup. You're going to have to get 2 or 3 of the value plays in to build any lineups that you like with Kyle Busch this week. Definitely like it starting 13th. He's got winning upside, and he's got the most place differential of anyone in that top range outside of Joey Logano, who's starting 20th. The difference between those two, even though Logano is cheaper, gives you a little bit more, 7 more place differential value points. Kyle Busch has shown a lot more speed in practice, and he's been better at this track, so I'm definitely leaning him. I think he might be lower owned because of that. I think Logano could be a little bit higher owned. He's cheaper, starting further back in the field. Chase Elliott stands out. He's 6th in my model, but I like him starting inside the top 5. He was 6th in final practice. He's also been good here as well. He won the playoff race here, 12th in the spring race, then he was 4th in the playoff race in 2017 as well. So he's been very good here lately. He's coming in with some momentum. He's got a win here lately as well, and he seems to be a little bit more expensive, so I think he's going to be, falling between Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned as well. I like him probably a little bit more on FanDuel, starting 5th. I don't think he's going to get out, and I don't think he's going to be one of the dominators this race. So paying up that much on DraftKings and not getting any place differential isn't the greatest situation, so I lean more to Chase Elliott on FanDuel because of that. I think Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch can both get up front and lead some laps in this race and be a dominator. So that's why I like them on DraftKings as well as FanDuel, but Elliott just a little bit more on FanDuel. So going down, even though Ryan Blaney is 18th in my model this week, a lot of that has to do with his form. He's also been terrible on the Texas and Vegas tracks this year that we talked about. He finished 37th and 22nd, so he's going to be more of a GPP play for me this week, but I love that he's starting 19th. He has been fairly good here. He was 7th in the fall. He was in a crash the spring race here last year, but top 5s in both races in 2017 as well. Top 10s in 2015 and 16. So he's got some nice track history. He isn't having the greatest of years, but if you go and look at this year, he's got a lot of finishes outside the top 20, and when he's not finishing outside the top 20, he's inside the top 5. So he's got that big time upside. He's under 10K on DraftKings. He gives you a bunch of place differential points starting 19th, and he was 8th in 10 lap average, so he showed that top 10 speed. So I think somewhere around that 10th to 12th place finish is probably his floor, and I think top 5 winning upside is there for him this week as well. Clint Boyer is going to be a core play for me. You may think this is crazy if you go back and you start looking at some of the track history. As you can see, he hasn't been great here. 13th, 15th, 19th. Only one top 10 in the last 10 races here. That might drive some people away. I'm not too worried about that track history. Like I said, I'm looking more at the results from Vegas and Texas earlier in the year. Looking at Boyer, he finished second at Texas, 14th at Vegas. A little bit better on FanDuel just because of where he qualified. Didn't pick up a ton of place differential, ton of points there for DraftKings, but for FanDuel it makes a ton of sense. His price this week, I will play him on both sites starting third. He was third in 1 lap and 10 lap averages in that final practice. Really like that. Second in the opening practice, didn't have that 10 lap average in the opening practice, but like I said, he found it and moved it up to third in that final practice, which turned into a third qualifying run. I think he can stay up there. Stewart-Haas cars look very strong, started 1, 2, 3, 4 this week. They were all fast in practice as well, so I don't think it's it's crazy to say that all 4 of them are going to finish top 10, with probably 2 or 3 of them inside the top 5 this week. And another one of those drivers, Stewart-Haas drivers I'm looking at, is Aric Almirola. He's starting second. Something I'm going to be looking at a little bit more on FanDuel. I don't think he's going to be a dominator this week. He could be an outside dominator because he was first in opening practice, didn't get a 10-lap run in, but he was 9th in final practice and second in 10-lap averages. So I just don't think he's going to get out front of his teammate Kevin Harvick and lead a bunch of laps. So for that, I'm going to be looking at him a little bit more on FanDuel, but 8,100 on DraftKings really hard to pass up this week. You could definitely put Boyer, Almirola, and Harvick together in a lineup. You could even fit Suarez in there, but I prefer Almirola over Suarez. He showed a lot more speed in practices. He's been a little bit better here as of late as well. My last core play before getting into some of the value plays is going to be Chris Buescher. I'm going to go ahead and look at, he started 27th this week. He was 5th in 10-lap averages in the opening practice, fell back a little bit, 26th in final practice, 24th in those 10-lap averages, starting 27th, and what the cheap price, mid 7K, and under 7K on FanDuel really stands out to me, especially seeing that he is starting 27th. Go look at his track history here. He's only finished outside the top 25 once, and that was last spring. Other than that, he's got top 25s in all of his races, top 20s in 3 of those, and even a top 10 in the playoff race in 2017. So I think that makes a lot of value. Even if he's only around that 25th, the price is right, and I think he's got probably 20th to 23rd, somewhere in there, upside this week. It's also been fairly solid here this season. We'll go look at the season form. Averaging 52.4 FanDuel points per race on the season. Go look at the current form. He's averaging 55.3 FanDuel points per race. A little bit less on DraftKings just because he's been qualifying better than his finishing position. So he's been qualifying very well. This week, starting 27th, I think that makes a big difference. I think we can get some place differential points out of him and some finishing position. He's my top. I'm going to call him a value play just because he's lower end. He's my last core play looking at those values. So jumping down into the actual value range, the sub 7K range on DraftKings, Matt DiBenedetto, number 22 in my model, starting 29th this week, showed faster speeds in all of those practices, and going and looking at his track history, he's finished top 25 in 3 straight and 4 of his last 5 races here. Like I said, he's starting 29th, so if he's somewhere in that 20 to 25th range at his price, I think he is definitely hitting value there this week for you. Tyler Reddick, this will be his first race at Kansas in a Cup car. What stands out here, especially, I don't mind his price on DraftKings, but for $3,000 minimum price almost, only 2 other drivers are cheaper than him on FanDuel. Tyler Reddick starting 30th this week, showed top 20 speed in final practice and opening practice. Definitely interested in that. Like I said, on FanDuel, if you throw in Tyler Reddick, it allows you to go Harvick and Busch are 2 of the big names out there, even 3 of them, to get together and get a really high upside line. If you get 3 drivers or 4 drivers that finish top 5, throw Tyler Reddick in there, you're going to have pretty close to a winning lineup. Daniel Hemrick, a little more on the GPP side again. He started in 26. This is his first race here as well at Kansas in the Cup Series. He showed better speeds than his qualifying time, minus 10 on that qualifying practice differential column there. So definitely looking at Daniel Hemrick this week as a GPP play. Cheap on both sites. I'd rather go with Reddick, like I said, on FanDuel, but I like the $300 savings if you need that on DraftKings down from Reddick. Two guys a little bit lower. First of all, Matt Tiff, not ranked very high in my model. He has no track history here. He's starting 35th. There is definitely risk here. He's very cheap on both sites. Starting 35th. He showed better speed by about 2 or 3 positions in practice. So that kind of stands out to me with his price. So I'll definitely take some risks on him. GPP only, of course. And then David Ragan. His track history is what stands out here. He started in 33rd. Didn't show, he didn't have a 10-lap run in either of the first practices. He was 33rd and 30th, so right about the same speed as his qualifying time. But when it comes to the race, he's been very good here. He's got top 20 finishes in 4 straight races here. Seeing the 1 or 2 top 20s in both races last year, but 2 straight years, 4 straight races with top 20s for a lower end team like that. I'm definitely interested in David Ragan as a value play this week. So that covers my core plays. Excuse me. I didn't cover any GPP plays. I want to keep this short as possible. I want to give you more track information and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, make sure to hit me up in the Roller Pros chat. Make sure to hit me up in the DFSR chat or on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9, or leave your comments below in this video. I'll definitely get back to them. Make sure to like and subscribe. More videos coming down the line. And like I said, stay tuned, as this is inspection starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern till about 4:30 p.m. Eastern until we know the official starting lineup. Stay tuned. Let's go get some green screens, make some lineups. Good luck this week, everyone.